Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of the Untold. We're going to share lots of great stories through our guests. But of course, at the beginning, I'd like to welcome with me my co-host, Dej. How are you?
Thank you so much, Hiba. I'm doing good. A little bit cold, but I'm doing good after all. Here in the studio, it's very cold, by the way, dear viewers. So, yes. And now, today, we have this artist who's going to, tell us and elaborate and tell us more about the way she paints, the way also she's happens to be a poet.
Yes.
So this is one of second thing. And the description that, of course, our producer Ali provided. And I can't wait to get to know more about her and know about the paintings and the ideas and how she became an artist after all.
Yes,
Yeah.
and to be honest, it's very challenging to me, especially when we're talking about being a poet and expressing yourself through poetry and poems. And to me, this is something very
Yeah, it's
challenging.
difficult.
But
yeah.
I'm very sure she managed to master it and to present it, and we're going to know more all about it through today's episode. So we're really glad to welcome, of course, after the short break, our guest, Zahra'a Taqi. So really happy to welcome you with us in today's episode, Zahra'a Taqi, especially talking more about, let's say, you as an artist. So welcome with us,
Thank you so much.
By the way, she's an artist.
Oh, you are?
kind of.
What does kind of mean?
Well, it depends, like, let's say. So we're going to get through it with the episode, and I'm
Yeah.
very sure you're going to really know the type of art that I do. So.
Okay, I'm
Alright,
excited.
so first of all, let's talk about how you started with the painting. What got you to it?
Well, my aunt actually taught me how to draw when I was a little girl. But creatively, I only started around 2018, 2019.
All right.
I was going through a bunch of stuff and I couldn't really verbalize. Yeah.
So you decided to paint.
Yeah,
whatever
I'm not a big talker and I couldn't really express how I was feeling verbally. So,
Yeah. And as they always say, that being an artist is something very beautiful. It's because they're the ones who, let's say, understand the soul and represent it very beautifully. So you can look in each artist painting, and then you can immediately understand what they've been going through in their life. Even, let's say, not talking more about life, but talking about the phase itself, about the time that they painted the art itself. So talking about that, we know that artists could be protective when it comes into that, because this is kind of, let's say, a soul, a mirror to their soul. Like someone can immediately know what's going on.
Right.
So how do you feel about that, especially when people say that?
I actually don't mind. I kind of use it as an outlet to get people to relate not only to me, but I like people to relate to not only my feelings, but sometimes I hear people talking about how they feel, so I try to create things
Yeah.
for them to kind of relate to as well.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
All right. So when it comes to drawing your own style or imagination that of yours, then you try to express yourself through painting. Now I get it. People sometimes ask, "What does this painting mean?" Or there's a specific meaning to it. Do you actually just tell them the meaning of it, or just you just have to watch it? And
I
that's it?
mean, art is
Okay.
subjective, so everyone will understand it from a different perspective, but I always give any painting a title. Sometimes I have a brief explanation just so people can understand where I'm coming from, even if they understand it differently.
Yes, and having that, to be honest, we've seen some of the artists, especially when they start to have their own gallery, is that they actually test people who come and, let's say, talk more about what's happening in the paintings.
Okay,
Like,
tell them what do you
yeah,
see in that.
like they would immediately come and stand and say, and that I feel this, that I think it's going this way, and so on. So the artist himself or herself would see the people from
A
different
different
way.
angle.
Like, okay, you're analyzing it too much. Like, maybe I didn't mean it that way, but you start to see how people do actually try to express about themselves without their knowing, let's say, cautiously knowing that what's going on and so on. So I think it's very beautiful technique, to be honest, to express yourself in many ways, whether as an artist or as a person. So talking more about you, and let's say choosing your own path. What do you like to use when it comes into, let's say, working with the art itself? Like, there's a specific medium you like to use and so on.
I actually use a bunch of mixed media, so I kind of use whatever's on the table. I use a bunch of oil paints, acrylics, some markers, some ink.
Yeah.
I basically use everything that's in front of me.
So everything could turn into an art.
Sometimes I even use makeup on my canvases.
Wow. Art is something else. Did you have like any particular painting that was too difficult for you to draw? It was challenging, let's say.
Yeah, actually.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. My best friend passed away last year. So I was trying to express how I was feeling. So I went through 3 different paintings until I finally let it all out. And somebody wanted to buy it and I didn't want to give it away. So I put it at a really high price. And then he said, yeah.
He insisted like.
Yeah. And I was like, oh no, like I gave you a high price because I thought you'd say no. But then I took it as a sign that maybe it's time to let go.
To let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of feeling is very challenging,
yeah.
to be honest, and unfortunate. But why is it challenging? Is because you do, let's say, present something very beautiful. And one of the reasons is that somebody could actually purchase it because they will feel connected to it. I mean,
Related to it. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
And then this is when you want to let go because it's very challenging. That because I stayed for a specific time, for a specific moment, and I did a very good job. And then suddenly to let it all go for one person. I mean, they're going to hang it in a very beautiful place, but they're like some, let's say, a sibling or someone that's really related. Talking more about your friend. So once that feeling of you're giving it away, you feel like I don't want to do that.
Yeah. You're just connected to it. I don't think I would be able to sell it.
Yeah, when
if it was me, it
yeah.
will be precious.
No, when I was giving it to him, I was kind of like pulling back. I was like,
Yeah.
Change your mind. All right, Zahra. So when it comes to painting, what actually motivates you to draw, start painting?
my feelings because I don't like talking.
This is what you mentioned previously, but like, were you inspired by anyone? Like in 2018, you mentioned that you started this hobby as, you started painting. So were you inspired by someone and then you continue it and then...
Not really. What inspired me was my sadness, and everyone was telling me to go to therapy. And every time I saw a therapist, I basically fired them the first day. I'd like never go back. I can't talk about anything.
All right, so painting was the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's really, let's say, very hard for someone to understand, especially that the idea that you go for a therapist and then you want to, let's say, just let it all out. It's like for me, I can't just sit with a random person and just tell him what's going on. It's like I feel like,
I prefer
how
listening.
are you going to help me if you don't know what's happening, really?
I prefer listening to music in this occasion.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah?
I have a playlist for every single painting that I start.
Wow, that's really quite interesting. I mean, you
See?
can even
No,
add
we
it.
got her talking.
Yeah, like you could actually add that to, let's say, the art itself. Once you're selling something, for instance, just tell them that play this music while watching the art because you're going to feel.
That's what I
connected
do
to
when
it.
I take my reels. I make sure to put exactly the song that made me feel it.
Wow,
All right,
that's
so
really quite
you
interesting.
so you promote your paintings through social media,
Yeah.
and then you add music to it and whatever. So you think social media plays a huge role in adding your paintings to the public so that they can relate to whatever you go through?
Somewhat, but here in Kuwait it's kind of hard because my art is kind of different. I do what's called surrealism, and people don't
Yeah.
understand it because it's basically something imaginary and like out of this world.
Yeah. And to be honest, this is kind of, let's say, taking people into different perspective that they, you start to understand that when it comes into awareness to art, we have, let's say, a limited awareness that people would immediately think that drawing a portrait, that means that's it, that's art. But when you're talking more about different kind of perspective of art, this is when you start to educate people about it. And I think what you're doing is really great, to be honest. And to have that said, talking more about these kind of challenges that face you, I'm very sure people, let's say not talking about people through social media, but the ones that are really close to you, once they see an amazing art that you do, I'm very sure they start to, let's say, think, because you're not an expressive person, that you don't talk but you express it through art. Maybe that would, let's say, let them to think about it a lot. What's going on, is there something happening, and so on. Like, tell us more about how related that to, let's say, affecting your friends, family, and the society itself.
Well, my art's pretty dark. So like, let's say when my parents come into my room, they just like look around And they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm totally fine."
Yeah.
Just
Think
another
about
day.
it.
Yeah.
Look at the painting, and they're like, "I don't want to."
Well, to be honest, it's like you're a normal person, but you like dark stuff, let's say. For instance, for me, if I'm a very happy, let's say, peak of my life, I would listen to sad songs. Because that would make me like
Yeah, well, I can
anyone who
relate.
knows me is like, yeah,
we do that.
you're happy because that's why you're listening to sad songs, you know. So yeah,
Sometimes even if I'm not sad, if when you just listen to sad music, you just go with the flow and
Yeah.
you become sad. So it's just a way to express and feel.
yes.
And now, you know what caught my attention is the poetry.
Mm-hmm.
So you have passion for poetry.
Yeah, I have a book.
Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, it's kind of on hold for now. It's copyrighted already and everything, but
Nice.
yeah. Also gonna be at Ma'rad al-Kitab in November. I started writing in Arabic,
Okay,
So-
sweet.
so November you'll see me there.
So, but like, what made you go into poetry?
Because I can't talk to people.
So you're expressing yourself through books,
Yeah.
let's say, especially
So
poetry.
books,
I can
paintings.
write, I can paint, but don't ask me how I'm feeling. Don't. You can read my poetry and figure it out. Or try and analyze a painting, but you're not gonna get anything out of me.
Yeah. So, Zahra, we've seen so many people who are actually, let's say, going what you're going through. Like they want to express, but they cannot connect. Like they cannot, let's say, do it, or let's say they feel that they cannot actually approach that. So, how would you, let's say, advise them in that matter of sense? Like, say, especially for the ones who would like to change. I'm very sure a lot of people would consider themselves, of course, being something. It's connected to me. I don't want to, let's say, expose it, but sometimes there are lots of, let's say, different people who want to have that kind of chance of expressing ourselves and to find our comfort zone. Like, what would you advise them in that matter?
Find something to do. Try a lot of things. Like if painting is not for you, for example, I work out sometimes just for stress relief.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I work out almost all the time because I'm always stressed. But, but yeah, just find something to do. Try a bunch of things. If you don't like something, try something else. There's always a way to express yourself.
Right. And like, how do you deal with criticism?
I'm fine with it. I don't really care what people think.
You
or
get
say.
bad, let's say, feedback through, let's say, comments or maybe your friends.
Here in Kuwait,
Yeah.
all the time, even on social media. It's fine.
And how do you deal with that?
I don't.
You just ignore?
Yeah.
That's kind of a solution, to be honest.
I always
It
say,
is. It is.
I have this saying that I always say, just like how you understood me wrong, you could also understand me right. So it's not my problem.
Right. So choosing poetry is something very challenging, to be honest. Like expressing yourself through words, people would consider that you have to have that kind of great knowledge and having lots of vocabularies,
have to
mentioning
be
that it has to be in
precise.
Arabic, as you just said. So did you find it really challenging in that matter of sense?
No, because I grew up in Canada and I only learned Arabic when I was like 10. So English is technically my first language.
Yeah.
And I used to read a lot growing up. I know people don't read anymore. I still read. I've been reading since I learned how to read. So
That's really great.
yeah.
So it's very beautiful to see that and to, I think, even spread awareness to people, especially the ones, we have so many beautiful minded people, but they're always shy of exposing themselves, and especially admitting that we read books, we express our ideas and thoughts through music, through art, and etc. So to have that said, it's very important to have that kind of sense of encouragement that it's fine to say that I'm a book reader. I read books. I don't read, let's say, electronic copies, but I like to read it with that kind of sense of paper and the cover and everything. So yeah, it's one of the ways.
Okay, but there's this thing called writer's block.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you like tell me or explain to me what does it mean and how you handle it?
Well, there's a writer's block and there's an artist's block. So let's say I have an idea, but I have no idea how I'm going to do it. So I got this idea 2 years ago for a painting that I'm working on right now. I only started this year because I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I kind of just let it come to me
And so you had to wait 2 years just to.
start.
That's the block.
painting. Yeah.
Okay.
I painted things in between. That was fine. But this specific idea, I was just like, I'm going to wait until it comes to me, until I see it in my head.
All right, fair enough. Now I know what does it mean. Well, with that said, let's take this very quick break, dear viewers, and then we'll be back to ask more questions.
And we're back to continue with our great artist Zahra Taqi. So one of the most amazing thing is to understand yourself, and I'm very sure this is something very challenging because we've seen so many people in that kind of matter of sense that they have that kind of, let's say, problem in trying to connect with themselves and trying to express it all out. So as you just said, through what we've seen through the first, let's say, part of the episode, that you managed to succeed in that by connecting to your art and through poetry itself. So when it comes into, let's say, coming up and generating a new idea, especially when it comes into painting and drawing. So do you start by, let's say, illustrating an idea through the canvas itself, or let's say, for instance, you have a specific process that you like to do? Because we've seen so many people terrified of holding a brush and then just exposing by itself.
Depends on the idea.
So I'm 100% sure she can work on everything.
Yeah,
me too.
it depends on the idea. If I feel like it needs more thinking, then I'll sketch it out first. And then I'll start on my canvas, and then I'll just keep adding things as I go.
Yeah.
So it takes a skill. I mean, not anyone can become an artist. Yeah, this is
Well,
100
to be honest,
Anyone can.
anyone
become-
can.
Anyone can draw anything. If I tell you to
Test
draw
me.
this,
I can.
if I
Test
tell you
me.
to draw this book, you can do it. You just follow the lines first. The shading and stuff comes later.
Right.
I don't know about that. You have to see my paintings.
I can
I don't
help
have any, but if I showed you mine, you'll just
I was
cancel.
teaching my mom how to draw yesterday. She failed, but she didn't want to try anyway, so she didn't.
Because we know that we don't have. I don't. Don't have the ability to draw something. I mean, I always give the example of the stickman. I can't draw identical stickman.
You can. You just think you can't. Tell yourself you can. You can do anything.
I like that.
You can
I'm
do
gonna
it.
go ahead and draw my
I'm waiting for a drawing, Charles.
family
I'm
of
waiting too.
stickmen. All right,
Yeah.
fair enough. So, so now we talked about poetry, we talked about the paintings, we talked about the different mediums, and also social media. We added so many cool stuff here in this the interview, but I really would like to know more about. Since you just mentioned now you started teaching your mom, so have you ever thought about teaching your friends, siblings, if any, and like is it possible like one day you will be teaching people how to draw?
Yeah, I think so. I think I kind of want to teach kids. I'm teaching my little cousin right now. She's doing a lot better than my mom because she actually wants to learn. So,
Oh.
yeah.
And I believe that the whole secret about improving is believing in yourself. I'm very sure a lot of people, let's say, believe in themselves in different matters and way, but to specific things that they like, for instance. People would consider an art, especially, let's say, from this perspective of drawing and painting, that this is something I want to do, therefore I'm going to master. And it goes around in different kind of categories when it comes into that matter itself. So one of the beautiful things that represent an artist herself or himself is always by having that kind of beautiful connection and presenting for everyone, of course, in that matter. So when it comes into being an artist, we've seen so many different type of artists. They're the ones who are really rational. They're the ones who are really, let's say, specific about specific details. Let's say they're very tempered. Some of them are very like we don't care and it's fine and so on. So where do you see yourself in that matter? Like, do you have that kind of type of rhythm that you're in a specific, let's say, pace? Or do you, let's say, shift from a mood to another when it comes into that?
It kind of depends. Like sometimes I'm kind of a perfectionist. So sometimes I can finish a painting in 2 days. Sometimes it takes months. It just depends. Sometimes I can see the idea in my head. And I can see it in my imagination. I can literally see every single detail. That's when I'm actually pretty fast-paced. But other times, no, it takes a really long time.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes annoying.
And do you start to, let's say, get stressed about it? Because we've seen so many artists that it affects their life. For instance, I want to finish this drawing and painting, but I can't. Therefore, when whoever sits next to me, I'm always in a temper mood and I don't know what's going on. And it's all because my painting is not done yet. Like, do you have that kind of, let's say,
Yeah, like sometimes
situations?
my friends are talking. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just thinking about the painting.
Yes.
And they're talking and talking, and I'm just sitting there, and they think I'm listening, but I'm not. I'm staring at them.
In another world.
Yeah, I'm staring at them, but no, I'm actually staring at what's in my head.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying like a whole month just to complete one drawing. This is like, I mean, if it was a video game, halfway I would quit. If I'm not gonna go back to the game. So does this come to you as like an artist? Like if you started drawing something for, let's say, 15 days, and then you took this 2 or 3 days, 1 week break, would you actually come back and continue the drawing, or you would just leave it? Did you
Yeah.
have this one incident that, you know what, I'm gonna cancel it?
No.
No, you come back and continue the drawing.
Yeah, that idea that I got 2 years ago, I started, I think, 2 months ago, and I'm still stuck on it. And I keep telling myself I'm going to continue, but if I can't right now, I just can't. I'll just wait for it to come back to me.
Yeah.
I tried to force myself into it. It doesn't work like that.
Zahra, like when you mentioned you have this idea in your mind and then you would like to start painting or doing it, do you actually write down the idea beforehand?
Yeah.
Like so that you don't forget about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when I come back to read what I wrote, I don't understand it either. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do believe that these kind of things, especially when it comes into making a masterpiece or creating art, it comes within its time. Like it's not meant to be for it to happen now. It's meant to be to happen after, let's say, 2-3 years. And I think, and I believe this is what happens, and especially for artists themselves, is that once they are working in a specific piece and then it's not finishing, they're not gonna, let's say, toss it away, but I mean, they're gonna wait for the right moment to happen.
Because they were going to be having new ideas, and then, okay, you stay here and then start with a new idea, and then they'll forget about the old one. This is what I thought. I'm not an artist myself. I'm just asking. Maybe, you would tell me so that I can understand next time. I'm not going to ask questions like these because it's going to be familiar to me later.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically, I have like 4 paintings on hold right now.
Yeah, see?
So, yeah.
So one of the challenging things is once you start to have clients, especially people who would like to, let's say, ask you, Zahra, we would like you to draw us something like that, and so on. So in this case, you have to, let's say, have a schedule of time, let's say restricted due date, and so on. So do you actually, let's say, started to do that in your career, or do you feel that you're still, let's say, not into that stage, but I'm going to do whatever I can when it comes into me, and then take it into a different
No, I
perspective?
do custom commissions. I tell people to give me details about everything they want in it. And then I make them like a rough draft, and then we go from there.
Oh,
you,
nice.
you pay me half first and half when it's done. When it's going to be done, I can't promise anything.
Wow.
But I'm working on it, so you got to pay.
It's worth it in the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can wait. It's
Yes.
okay. So do you actually now like study or work?
Well, I stopped school for a while. But,
Right. So because I was about to ask, how do you balance your life and drawing and then studying or working at the same time? So basically now you have family, friends, you have your own life, and also you have your hobby, which probably it could be a career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of balancing your life, having time for your family, your friends, and also yourself, and your hobby as that painter. And now I know for sure that it takes time to draw something. So it takes quite a lot of your, let's say 2 to 3 hours a day to draw something, and maybe it takes months, like we just mentioned. So how can you balance your day? Like you have something to draw, and also you have to take care of let's say, of your life.
Yeah,
Well-
especially in Kuwait, we do have social life. Social society is very active in that matter. So
I don't have a social life.
no social life.
No.
Say.
I have
That's
like
it.
I have like 2-3 friends, and if I'm painting, nobody bother me. Sometimes I go 12 hours repetitively, like I will not stop.
Wow, this is just like me back when I used to play video games a lot. So I used to sit for more than 12 hours. I promise I stayed for 21 hours straight. And then someone introduced me to the gym, to douaniers here and there. And then I had to do this balance, because staying put for more than 4 hours I don't think it's good. So, moving and, socializing, I think is a good way to,
Yeah. I mean, if I'm gonna paint, I make sure to do my workout first, because I know I'm gonna be painting for a really long time. So
The most important thing is knowing yourself and knowing everyone around you, and presenting it in that matter so that everyone would understand what's going. Because this is the most important thing: is to have people that support you and understand what you're going through when it comes into
I know
work.
what's important
Yeah.
for you, so that just let you be, do what you love the most, and you will have enough time to do that.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So also one of the beautiful things that people would consider in mind, especially dealing with being an artist or let's say being a poet, is we've seen so many people believing in themselves, but then we have the other people who think that this is something not as a talent, but something that you could actually get it through and gain it through learning. So where do you believe in this statement? Like, do you feel a person being an artist in different kind of way and matter is something that is actually born within them, and then they start to discover and become more, let's say, teach themselves and learn more about it? Or do you think that it's something that you can gain through life?
Both. Both. You can do anything you want to do. That's one. Talent is different. If you're doing something you know nobody else can do, that's talent. But anyone can learn how to do anything.
Yeah.
So now in terms of, let's say, 5 to 6, maybe to 10 years later, where do you see yourself in the poetry and painting as well?
Poetry, hopefully it's going to go well.
I can't wait to see the book. This is one, but for the paintings.
Paintings, I have a bunch of things coming up.
Are you thinking of improving, trying new styles, trying new mediums to draw on?
Well, I use every single medium, so I don't think I
So
can
we
use
have
any
this-
more
okay.
than what I'm using.
Take it out of the way, and then maybe new styles?
Well, looking back at my arts even a year ago, it's improved
It's improving.
wildly. Yeah.
Definitely. If you keep doing something, then you will improve with
Yeah.
anything. And
Regardless of how good you are, it's just going to get better
Yeah.
if you keep going.
Indeed.
practice makes perfect, and she likes
Yes.
to be perfect. That's what she meant.
I try. I try. Nothing's perfect, but we try.
Do you have anything
Yes,
else,
I
Aisha?
do. Have you tried oil pastels?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about them? Don't you feel like they're kind of let's say, a way for someone to relieve their stress and anger if they have it, or do you feel it's something stressful to use?
For me, it's kind of annoying, so I mix it with other things because you just have to wait for it to dry down, and I don't have patience.
Right.
Like, I can't just wait a week for one layer to dry. Like, no.
Yeah.
So I'll mix it with other things to speed up the process.
It already takes time, so now you're adding more time to the time that
Yeah.
you need to draw.
To the 2-3 years, Yeah, but something nice.
But after all, we really wish you best of luck in
Thank
your journey as a poet, also an artist, and we're looking forward to read the book that you're going to be releasing soon. And yes, so definitely we now enjoyed this one and reached the end of this episode. So thank you so much for being part of this. And yeah, we will take this quick break, dear viewers, before we wrap the episode. So stay with us. And with that said, dear viewers, we have reached the end of this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. How did you think it went?
Well, to be honest, it's quite interesting. Something new, I believe, especially for me.
Poetry.
Yeah, and to have that kind of sense of having a person who's not really talkative, but knows how to express their feelings and what they feel inside through art is something very beautiful. And I'm very sure a lot of people do have that kind of, let's say, sense of challenge, but they could manage to, let's say, master something new and try to express themselves, especially for the ones that they love.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% think that people can relate to what they heard today. So yes, that was the end. We hope you enjoyed it. And of course, we wish to see you again in another episode of The Untold. Stay safe. Goodbye.